It's Monday, November 30th, 2015. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And this is GeekNights. Tonight, talking about headphone jacks,
This is Rim's idea.
TRS, and all that biz. Let's do this. So today, I'm, my building has 4 elevators for work, like the office, just for like our elevator bank, because it's a tall building. And there's a lot of semi-public businesses on it, so people use it off and on throughout the day. But today, like 11, I went down and did some stuff, and I go to take the elevator back up, and there's a woman standing there, like waiting for the elevator, but she has not hit the button to go up. So, fine. So I go and I hit the button, and then she turns to me and says, excuse me, sir. And already I'm like, uh-oh, why is she talking? Who's this person? Why are they talking to me? And she's like, are you riding the elevator up? And I'm like, yes, I'm riding this elevator up. And she's like, what floor are you going to? And part of me is thinking maybe
Why do I have to tell you where I'm going?
Maybe I should not respond because this is like crazy person bells are going off. But well-dressed, not a hobo, like she's nothing really.
Prejudice, okay.
Yeah, but seriously, it's New York. The reality is, if someone reeks of urine and starts asking you stuff, it's very different.
Yeah, but just because you don't reek of urine doesn't mean... Be like, well,
it doesn't mean, no, you don't pull the shields down.
I'm not telling you where I'm going.
You do not put the shields down just because someone doesn't reek of urine, but you might actually respond to the hail. So I'm like, I'm going up to the 16th floor. And she's like, oh, okay, I'm going to 15. Can I ride with you? And I'm like, I guess. So the elevator comes and I get in and I wait for her to hit 15 and I hit 16. And then she starts explaining to me that she won't ride elevators alone because she's afraid to.
Okay.
So instead, I guess she waits for the first stranger who comes by and decides to get in the elevator with him.
You don't have to ask. You can just wait for them to go in the elevator.
No, I think she was worried that what if she got in with me and she kind of explained this and I went to a lower floor than her because then I would abandon her. So she'd have to get off on the same floor I got off on, but that would be weird.
You could get over it and deal with your elevator fear.
I don't know what aspect, because she's afraid of being alone in the elevator. So I joked, I was like, well, elevators are pretty safe. Like once you're in them, it's not like someone else can get in when they're between floors. And she's like, you don't know that. And then I was like, yeah, shields are back up. It's kind of like, because it reminds me of, I learned that there are actually people who have, there's an app for this too, but people have a job of hanging out. You know that bridge by the water gap down in Delaware that we used to take all the time?
Yeah, I know that bridge.
So there are people who are so afraid to ride in cars over that they hire people to drive them over that, and they like sit in the back and cry, I guess. Like that is the thing. There's a job you can have of drive people's cars over that bridge for them every day.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So I wonder if I could get a job hanging around in my elevator lobby, riding the elevator with people as an escort.
What they should do is you just push the person in the elevator and close the door.
Yeah.
And be like, oh, I guess your fear of elevators was a self-fulfilling prophecy.
What would have been funnier
if you never would have said anything, you could have just ridden the elevator normally like everyone else. But because you were afraid, well, now you're going to have to suffer.
See, you don't think about this too elegantly.
It's just like
this is why you...
It's just like with your annoying noises. It's like, well, now that we know that noise annoys you, guess what's going to happen?
I think you learned one noise that does annoy me, but... This is why you are not a proper troll. This is why I am a schooled troll from the olden times and why I really feel bad about how this word has been denigrated. Because a proper troll would have agreed to this woman's request.
Pushed 5.
Gotten into the elevator with her. No, not just gotten off. Hit 16. She hits 15. Wait until the door is just about to close. Jump through it, not tripping the sensor that would reopen the door. So that she is suddenly trapped on her own without having been touched or shoved in any way. Because if you shove her, you are an asshole. But simply getting out of an elevator does not make one an asshole. It makes one a troll.
Oh, shit. I forgot my coat.
Yeah. That's even better if you make a polite excuse. So now she has no excuse. So yeah, that was my morning. And I thought about this all day because it was the weirdest thing that's happened to me in some time.
Uh-huh.
I mean, what weirder thing has happened?
I hope she was taking the elevator to, like, the psychologist's office.
There is one, but it's on the 16th floor.
Isn't that where she went?
No, she went to the 15th floor. Fuck if I know what's down there. It looks identical to my floor.
Also, why doesn't she just use stairs?
You can't take the stairs up in my building, only down.
Why not?
Because they're locked one way.
Whoa.
Yeah.
You can use the stairs in my building all you want.
I know. I wish I could use the stairs in my building. I complained, and the response
I
I
don't think you want
got.
to take the stairs to the 16th floor.
I talked to the super and I asked, like, hey, like, could we set it up so we can take the stairs up during the day? And his response was to raise his eyes and look at me, not respond, and then look back down at his pallet. So that was how far I got on that one.
You should be like, all right, obviously there's some reason you think that that's stupid. Can you please tell me that reason?
Yeah, I don't think he wanted me to talk to him.
Fine, I'm going to go and talk to my, I'll go through, you know, the building manager.
But he basically is, like, there's no one above him I can talk to.
He's collecting your rents?
Effectively.
What? That's crazy.
Scott, get a building downtown. It's not like a fancy midtown.
Our man town isn't that fancy, but if I talk to the guy, he's just like, hey, how's it going?
So do you have any tech news? Anything to talk about in the first bit of the show this Monday?
No.
No, nothing?
We already did an episode that I don't give a shit, and I find myself somehow, even just a week later, even giving less of a shit.
All right.
Or 2 weeks later. It's
So-
like, there is no tech news.
First things first, I'm thinking about building a new HTPC because my HTPC is on its last leg.
So I just upgraded mine to Windows 10.
Really? I did that a
and-
long time ago.
Well, it just got the notification. I didn't do.
Oh.
I didn't push it. Right.
Yeah,
I
okay.
waited for the notification. So, and I had free time finally on this, the weekend. So
yeah.
with the Thanksgiving afterwards. Anyway, so I mean, it's kind of slow. It's only an i3, and the low profile video card is weak, so it can only play Rocket League on like.
Do you have the GTX 460
No,
or
it's
whatever?
an AMD whatever. I
Oh.
think it's actually ATI. I don't even know. It's
Whoa.
Radeon something.
Because I have a low
crappy.
profile, but it's a GTX 460. Like, it is a real video card.
Anyway, it's a real video card. It's just old. So, I mean, it can play Rocket League on low settings. It's fine. But, I don't do really too much 3D gaming on there. And you can use the Steam stream for all kinds of games with really fancy graphics.
True.
And it has no problem, like, power-wise, like playing HD videos or streaming HD videos or anything like that. The only slowness is the storage. It took a long time to upgrade to Windows 10.
Yep, and mine takes a long time to boot
And
because of that
SSDs
spinning
are way
disk.
cheap right now with the sales, especially. I saw 250 something gigabyte SSDs for like $80, or like 200 gig ones for like $50. It's like
No.
there's a Newegg and Amazon. You can get SSDs for way cheap right now. So I thought about buying one.
I saw 120 for $34.
Yeah, it's like I thought about buying one, but I'm like, you know what? Why spend any money? Because it's still getting the job done.
Yeah. That's exactly where I went too, because my problem is that it started
It's like,
to,
oh no, it's a little bit slow when I have to read some files, but usually it's reading files over the network and not over the
and
disk.
I'm not doing that often. The games I play on it all work fine. It's mostly emulation and like Necrodancer and things like that.
Yep.
It's slow to reboot, but I don't
You can
reboot
still
it that
mount
often.
you can still mount your friends.
Like I
Yeah,
reboot it.
the booting is slow. Big deal.
Yeah, but lately it's a recent thing, and I have not updated the driver. The video card will just crash and flip out.
I think that's NVIDIA driver because on my desktop. it
but
says
this
the
was
680.
not
That
happening
also
before.
happens.
This was not happening before.
Was
and
there
I,
a recent driver update with your
no, I have
automatic driver
not
update?
applied the driver updates.
Didn't you switch from Windows 7 to Windows 10?
Yeah, but when I switched to Windows 10, this didn't happen for a long time, and then it started happening like a month ago.
Mine happens about once every month or two. There's like NVIDIA driver has crashed. I think it happened actually like a couple weeks ago with some Civ.
So I think I'm gonna dust it and reseat everything and see if that goes away.
I was doing some research on dusting, while looking also at the deals, and apparently, a lot of people are like canned air is just poison chemicals. It's not actually compressed air in a can, whatever.
Yeah, I know that.
I know that
open the
too.
window when you use it, guys. Like,
Yeah, but they're like, no, environments, I'm a hippie, whatever. So I'm like, well, what's your alternative? You gonna buy a air compressor?
well,
like,
just compressed air, depending on how you do it, could introduce static issues.
sure, right? That's what I'm saying. Is you don't just use an air compressor. You got it right. And they're like, there's this product on Amazon that's like the hurricane something or tornado or something like that, where it's like, yeah, it's just battery powered and it whatever. Apparently, if you read the reviews, like it's total bullshit.
Yeah, you know what? I go through about a can of air every 2 years, so I think that's okay.
Yeah, I went on Amazon to buy the cans of air, and you know what? One can was $10.
Let me guess, 2 cans was like $11.
2-pack was like $30.
Oh.
So I bought 2 1-packs for $20, which is
But-
cheaper than the 2-pack.
So what I'm looking into now is there's 2 ways I can go. Basically, I'm going to run this HTPC until it dies. But I'm done with ATX. I'm either going to get a micro ATX in the shoebox form factor instead of the VCR form factor, because the shoebox cases can have a full-size video card on a micro ATX motherboard. So I'm done with...
But if you just rotate that video card somehow 90 degrees...
You can't, though, because it's not like the old days. You could put, like, giant risers out of your motherboard and not affect performance. Like, risers fuck shit up now because things are fast.
Well, I think, there's a company, Zotac, that specializes in making small computers. And
and they make some pretty good shoebox form factors.
But I think I might just buy, like, a complete system for them when the time comes.
So, the other thing I was looking at, if I am confident that I can get away with not having...
I'll take a look at the next PAX. They always have a booth.
Oh, yeah. But not having a real NVIDIA video card. Like, if I'm comfortable that I can get away with, like, even a Core i7.
Telling you, just use the Steam stream. It totally works.
Yeah, in that case, I might get a Core i5 or even, you can get a cheap i7 if you go with, like, lower numbers of cores and do the Intel onboard video and get a micro ITX and just get this tiny, tiny, tiny little thing. Because I don't really need the DVD playing capabilities anymore. So I don't, which actually is the biggest thing other than the video card. So I might just make like the tiniest PC for my HTPC and be done with it.
Let's just, when we go to PAX South, I guess, let's just check on the Zotac booth.
Yeah, because if you're willing to go down the road of micro ITX, the pre-built systems are probably better put together than anything you're going to build yourself at that point.
What are you going to do if you build it yourself?
Yeah.
You're going to buy a bunch of stuff from Zotac and put it in a box more clumsily than they do.
Yep, exactly. But the answer is not.
I wonder if they have any competitors. Like, I just know them. I don't actually know if they're any good. I just know of them.
You know who they compete with? Bad solutions like Roku's or smart TVs or Xboxes.
No, there has to be someone else who makes small computer bits.
Because if you guys didn't realize, there's a lot of YouTube videos and content that just don't show up if you don't have a real HTPC. Like, stuff's just not there when you search. I've been doing research on that. So, in other news, Amazon, a lot of people have been poo-pooing Amazon's drone delivery, and Amazon had their little prototype. People are like, that's cute, but it's fake. And pretty much most industry people and normal people say that.
Seems like something too far in the future that won't happen.
So
like
Amazon
VR, or self-driving cars.
And then Amazon was like, yeah, we got one that works. Here it is. Here's video of it. 15-mile range, delivering real packages, like for real, autonomously. Regulation is holding us back, not technology. And actually, it looks pretty cool.
Are we within 15 miles of an Amazon warehouse?
If I were Amazon, 15 miles, Scott. It takes me, I'm like 9 miles away.
Because I know there's an Amazon warehouse like in Jersey somewhere. Oh, no, that's a Newegg warehouse.
I'm 9 miles away from my office downtown.
Yeah, I'm like 5.
So you could put platforms on top of like 4 buildings in Queens and cover all the parts of Queens that matter.
No, but I'm saying is that you need to have it has to start at the warehouse where the goods are.
Well, no, you still have trucks delivering probably from the warehouses to like distribution centers. But instead of having that big ass truck, go to a bunch of little trucks, the big ass truck goes to a distribution center that then goes to a whole bunch of little drones.
All right, so what do you do people throwing rocks at the drones?
We'll solve that by just making it a crime. Actually, the rock problem is probably...
Is there a way to trick the thing and to deliver... Right, so you got... normally it's like, okay, it's got to land at my house. What if I'm not home? Is it ringing my doorbell?
Yeah, and you know what? The problem is we could do a whole show on that.
Is it going to land on my balcany? Is it going to figure that out?
Now...
Can I help it figure that out?
The problem is every time any tech blog...
What if it's snowing?
Any podcast, any /shithead talks about this topic, they'll ask questions like Scott's asking... But they'll act like no one at Amazon ever thought of these things. Like
it's like they're like, oh, I found this problem that you didn't already answer. I'll assume it's unanswerable. Scott, there is no solution. Therefore, this could never happen.
I got this crazy idea for a horseless carriage. but what if horses are still on the road?
Well, I mean,
and
it has to get power from somewhere. Where does it get power from?
Yeah. What did you think of that?
Yeah. What do you have to like, feed it? Like a horse, you feed hay?
It's like, yeah, I invented the horseless carriage. I figured all that stuff out. So...
There's no gas stations yet. What are you going to do? How are you going to get out of New York? There's the only gas station around.
Yeah. I'm confident that Amazon has people whose sole job is to sit there all day thinking about all the things that could go wrong with delivery drones. That'd probably be a fun job, actually. Just sit there and be like, what if X happens?
That's a fine job if I didn't have to sit there for more than 40 hours a week.
Yeah. So, to what other... Oh, yeah, so this is a cool thing. I'm just going through all my tech newses.
Garbage tech news.
Formula E is a racing scene that pretty much no one except like supercar nerds knows anything about, or super nerds.
Right. It's like basically, there's Formula One, which is the best, and then
The best, but also problematic for
everything is all racing is problematic. But Formula E is like, all right, fine, we'll make another league, another racing, championship.
Yep.
Where there's electric cars.
Ooh.
And basically, instead of charging the batteries in the middle of the race, you pull in and you jump. The driver jumps out of the car and jumps in the second already charged car. Otherwise, the race wouldn't be long enough.
Now, the problem with one of the problems with all this kind of racing is that you can't do a lot. Like, there's a limiting factor in a lot of car racing. And that's the human and the safety concerns.
Mm-hmm.
So Formula E was basically
There's
like,
a lot of rules in Formula One that are pretty much like, you can't do this because you kill people. They're even thinking about making it's open wheel, open cockpit racing.
And there's a lot of reasons for that, for like competitiveness and whatever.
Right. They're considering like closing the cockpit on Formula One cars for safety reasons, like put a little glass dome over your head or something.
Yeah. So Formula E was just like, you know what? Robot League. Robot League.
Yep. No more humans driving these cars. We'll let the cars drive themselves.
We don't know the full
Let
details.
me start asking a bunch of stupid questions I assume there's no answer for.
I am excited for the idea of this show, because then Formula One and other kinds of racing can showcase more like team tactics, the human factors in the face of limitations. Formula E could go crazy red line nonsense.
That's
in a
what
hurry.
I'm saying.
Like, the cars could have guns on them if we wanted to. Like, that could totally.
Well, you got to worry about the spectator safety still.
They solved that in all the movies about this.
And also, if you put guns on the cars, it stops being less about
racing and more
about fighting, right?
But more like, so ground effects cars, like F1 cars could be way, way faster, and we made them less fast.
They were way faster.
Yeah, ground effects cars.
Not even ground effects. We used to have like V10s and
V12. These things could have all of that. And even better, if it's AI versus AI, a lot of people only watch F1 for highlights to see when crazy shit happens. A bunch of AIs reacting in real time in souped up, dangerous electric cars. Crazy shit might go down like on a minute-by-minute basis. Like the AI might just do something stupid.
Well, eventually, but the thing is, right, like all sports, you're going to approach maximum efficiency pretty rapidly if there's enough investment. And you're just going to see every car achieving its maximum, lap time, its shortest possible race time. And whichever one is the shortest possible race time will win.
However, I will say this. If AI gets advanced enough to where every car on the road is driving perfectly in
There won't be a situation where the car that gets the pole in the qualifying won't also win the race. It got around the track fastest. It can continue to get around the track.
Imagine this. So say two of the AI cars have perfect knowledge of the perfect line and the fastest speed, but one of them is in front of the other one.
How did it get there if the other one was faster to begin with?
How do you do anything in F1? I mean, right now in F1, you have the qualifications, so they might be off by like a microsecond.
Human errors.
Yeah, so maybe AI errors. If we get AI that is perfect at this, and there are no differentiating factors between them,
It would get really boring.
But that also means we have solved a lot of really complicated problems.
We have solved how to make a car go around a track as fast as possible.
If the AIs are so perfect that the competition is meaningless and comes down to random factors in Formula E with AIs down the road, that means that self-driving cars are the literal reality of the entire rest of the world. At least the industrialized world. At least rich people in the industrialized world.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm looking forward to what actually comes out of this, so stay tuned.
Yeah, I'm going to watch every race.
Yeah.
The cars that drive themselves, I'm watching every race, every second.
So I got one little thing here. Unicode, is the way you should be encoding text nowadays for a lot of reasons.
Mm-hmm.
And Unicode has a lot of like smiley faces and things in it. There's a lot of characters in there.
Yeah, because they got so much space, they've already put all the human languages. So emojis and emoticons are used by a lot of people. So why not put them in there? And they have been, and it's been really helpful, actually.
Yeah, it is really useful that
it's a positive thing.
I can type an emoji on my Android phone, and pretty much anyone I send that message to on a phone, a computer, a
Depending
tablet,
on their font.
Anywhere in the world, the symbol is transferred, but not the graphic.
Mm-hmm.
So if Scott's on iPhone, his like angry cat guy looks a little bit different from my angry cat guy because the character is just defined as angry cat guy.
Yep. And your font determines what it actually looks like.
So there's a
The
consortium.
same as with all the normal letters.
Yeah, there is a consortium. Like Unicode is just like an example of everything that is both good and overly bureaucratic with technology standards.
Right.
And there's a problem that has emerged that a lot of people never anticipated, only recently. Companies like Nestle are trying to petition the consortium that decides what characters get added.
It's a good thing the consortium isn't a commercial entity with commercial interest.
To add their own trademarks and advertisements as Unicode characters.
No.
So Nestle wants a Kit Kat emoji. Taco Bell wants a Taco Bell taco emoji. Durex wants a condom, but supposedly
Well,
they,
I mean, a condom
they just want a generic condom, which
That's
I think
fine.
we do need.
I'm okay with that, Durex. You're good.
Yeah.
You're good.
But if Durex wanted a Durex,
Also, Taco Bell, I think there's already a Bell. So, and I think there might, and if there's also a taco, that's fine too. You can just go taco followed by Bell.
So here's my worry.
Nestle, I think there's already a chocolate bar, so shove it.
Here's my worry. If you think that most people don't care enough about local politics to get involved, that people who have too much power are involved and are controlling local politics, less people care about this than you can imagine.
The people who care about this are also the people who care about the clocks being 1 second off.
More people know who Bernie Sanders and Lawrence Lessig are combined than even know that there's a Unicode consortium.
I know it's a concern.
Yeah.
But I also know who those people are.
You're a rare unicorn, Scott. So my worry
Is there a unicorn emoji?
that consortium could probably be taken over by shady commercial interests trivially if people actually tried.
And that's bad news.
And even if it isn't, if these pollute that space, the can of worms it opens is beyond comprehension.
We're going to have to replace Unicode with something else.
Let's say I send a message, I tweet something with the emoji for, I don't know, Coca-Cola, like a can of Coca-Cola. But I say, hey, want a Pepsi? Coca-Cola would have to send me a trademark C&D or risk losing their rights to the trademark.
I make a font, and there's one of the characters is the letter A, another one is the letter B. Things which are not owned by anybody.
And the third one is Ron Paul 2012.
Right. So I have to make, when I'm making my font, a graphic for Ron Paul 2012, and I decide to make it a poop.
So I think that is the solution. We'll keep an eye on this. Believe me, I'm one of the people who will know if this shit happens. If it happens, I call on everyone who makes fonts, everyone who supports Unicode.
Anyone who makes any emoji arts.
Any emoji that is a trademark
emoticons.
Should always be interpreted as a middle finger.
Or a poop.
Yes.
Or a middle finger and a poop.
I think both. Well, yeah, poop is better because middle finger isn't culturally universal. Poop's pretty universal.
Or a poop with a trademark. Poop TM. Or Goatsy. With TM.
Anyway, things of the day. What do you got for me?
So, you know, in Manhattan, it's not easy to get real estate. It's not even easy to rent, even if it's commercial real estate.
Well, Scott, so guess what? Lake Hole is gone.
Couldn't afford the rent.
Couldn't afford the rent.
Yep.
$100 plus a head table restaurant.
Well, there's a cook shortage, I heard, but that's a different story. Anyway. Yeah. But surprisingly, in Manhattan, there's a lot of things that manage to stick around and seem to be unable to get pushed out despite the fact that rents go up. And they're usually things that have some special way of staying where they are. Things like a church, right? Has some special way to stay where it is. Maybe it's a landmark. Maybe someone just owns the property and it's not like renting.
There's a great article about why Chinatown still exists, even though that real estate is worth like 100 times what it's being used for.
Yep. Things like that. So, you know, theaters, they stay, you know, stuff like, even though theaters are making money. Anyway, and one of the things that tends to stay are like museums, but also these really like specialized and tiny museum type things. Right? You'll always go around and you'll be like, what the hell is that? And it's like this really tiny thing. And it's like, oh, that's the Museum of Gangsters.
Yeah, yep.
And it's this tiny little thing. And somehow, it, you know, no one goes to it, but it keeps that spot and it just stays there. So another thing related to the museums are these libraries, like these very specific libraries. Like you'll see them if you walk around. There's like Christian Science Library. And I think that partially uses the church exception.
Yeah.
Also, Christian Science is bullshit. It has nothing to do with science. Yep. Stay away from that. Not as bad as Scientology, but bad.
Yeah.
It's as bad as Seventh-day Adventist bad. You're better off just going to Catholic church or whatever than going there.
Why not the Orthodoxy?
Sure, you can go there too. It's better.
Like
than,
OC.
It's better than Christian Science.
OC, man.
Christian Science is all like, don't take medicine, just die. It's awful. But anyway, you'll also see ones like, I think there's like a Swedish like specific like library kind of thing. I saw once. You see stuff like that. But there's one I did not know about, probably because I never walked past where it is, and it is called the Conjuring Arts Resource Center.
Wait a minute. That sounds Lovecraftian.
It is a library that contains 11,000 books about magic and its allied arts.
Whoa. If High School Rim had found that place, High School Rim would have applied to work there.
Right. So apparently that's there. And yeah. So I didn't know it was there, but if you need to study magic, don't go to the regular library. Go to the magic-specific library, and you could learn some cups and balls or some sauna lady in half, or worse.
That is actually super awesome.
Yeah. Usually, I don't know, sometimes I don't know how this one works. A lot of them work differently. Like, sometimes you can go in and read all you want, but you can't take anything out. Sometimes you got to be a member to even walk in. So they're all, I guess you can go to their website and get some infos if you actually want to go there. And you're in Manhattan, and you care about magic.
I'm going there.
What are you gonna learn there?
I don't know. Magic?
You're gonna
I'm
study.
going to learn magic.
What are you gonna learn?
I know a few magic tricks.
missile.
Dude, do you know how much damage 1d4 plus 1 is on a human? A level 0 commoner? That's death for most people.
All right. Well, they're not gonna. They're obviously not letting you in.
Magic missile never misses either. Anyway, so I have a quote for you. But from an article about the video that is my thing of the day. Quote, "The battery pack living inside this thing is a literal pack of rechargeable AA batteries soldered and taped together into an amalgam of electricity and regret."
So first of all, if you don't realize this already, when you get a battery pack, it's like batteries come in cells the same way that your AA's and your C's and all your AAA's.
Yeah, like you buy a laptop battery, it'll say like, this is the 6-cell one, and this is the 8-cell one.
Take your laptop battery and open it up.
Don't do that.
Okay.
Don't actually open it, but...
yeah, but if you opened it up, you know what's in there? A bunch of batteries all end to end in rows. And they look like normal batteries. They're just usually like solid color and full of lithium and not full of...
But they're like tested together. They're embedded in like usually some sort of like heavy
There's usually
case.
some circuit board controlling them, right? It's not like when you put a AA battery in your TV remote, the AA battery is going right into your remote.
But there's like a power, there's something there.
There's some
taking
sort
power
of
from
capacitor regulator kind of thing.
Yeah,
right?
but it's not...
When you have a battery pack, usually, there's some sort of circuit board in between all those cells and your laptop, right? Inside the battery pack.
This is a dude who just does like teardowns, like he'll take apart technology and be like, hey, here's a thing, and I'm going to take it apart and tear it down and tell you how it worked. And he has these ones about like embedded computers and tablet computers and whatever. But this video is kind of special. This is like a specialized tablet computer that was sold as a product for people to use in a professional setting.
Yeah, we already know that like medical devices and medical are like the worst.
The Asinomed InfoView medical tablet computer. I guess it was used in hospitals for medical data and doctors and nurses and things, and probably starting fires.
Probably.
So he does his usual thing, like he's opening this thing and he's like, oh, well, there's a board like this, there's a board like this. And this video increasingly goes off the rails.
I laughed so hard at work. I couldn't stop laughing.
He's like, this is a dog's breakfast is what we got in here. Like he cannot believe what is going on in here. And he finds cells, like, the kinds of cell, like, those cells Scott was talking about, they kind of look like a regular, like, AA battery, but they're not a regular AA battery. Like, you don't just put those in something.
No.
And he has soldered them together and wrapped tape around them. Like, jumbled in, like, laying on top of the motherboard. There's, like, 2 of them, and then there's a third one, like, off somewhere else. But he keeps saying, like, oh, there's a battery pack. Like, there's a normal battery pack, and then this bullshit. And as he's getting deeper and deeper into this thing, he starts getting more and more suspicious of that, quote, battery pack. And when he opens it, this video is just great. This is also why...
Also, keep in mind, when you go to the hospital, this is the sort of equipment your life depends upon.
Yep. This is the kind of equipment that I used to have to deploy in hospitals, which is why I quit that job and burned every bridge I had as I walked out the door, flipping everybody
You don't need
off.
to burn it. This is going to burn itself, this kind of bridge.
All I did was leave an Med tablet computer on the bridge. In the meta moment, the book club book was The Wheel of Time. I just read the 5th book.
I started reading the 5th book, and I haven't read any in a long time. You could probably listen to Geek Nights episodes and figure out when I started and stopped reading that 5th book.
We'll start a new book club book that isn't The Wheel of Time soon. I actually know what it's going to be now.
Uh-oh.
That book that we talked about on the last interview show we did. Do you remember that book?
No.
Sounded like a really good book.
Oh, okay. Maybe I'm remembering a bit now.
With Joe Fu?
Yeah, I
that
remember.
one. That's the book
Okay.
I'm going to do, I think.
Okay.
So otherwise, we're going to be at MagFest on a bunch of panels. They're not public yet,
I
but
gotta arrange all kinds of transportation.
if you back us on Patreon, I posted a preview of the panels we're likely to be on, even though that's not otherwise generally public information. So there you go. Otherwise, we're probably going to be at PAX South. We're probably going to be at PAX East. We're probably going to be at Anime Boston. We're probably going to be at Kineticon. I think that's far enough out. Pushing July.
PAX Prime.
PAX Prime.
That's the convention schedule for next year.
Then MagFest again. PAX South or PAX Os. We're probably going to do PAX Os.
I was thinking about going to Essen next year.
You want to do both?
I can't afford that. You want to give me a bunch of money?
No. Why don't you?
Patreon. You want to like quintuple your investment?
Yeah.
Send me to Essen and PAX Oz.
And also, for our Tuesday listeners, David Peterson finally posted, we helped him and Luke Crane make a bunch of videos around the Mouse Guard Swords and Strongholds board game, the board game that the mice play in the Mouse Guard comics.
Right. So if you had any rules questions about those games, we helped produce some videos that explain every conceivable possible rule scenario. In case you don't want to read the rules, you just watch these videos instead.
There is one scenario we do not describe.
Uh-oh.
No, we knew because I have the video where we all talked about the scenario and agreed that there's literally no reason to explain that scenario.
Oh, okay.
The one where, what if I need to put a mouse back on the board with my rescue, and there's literally, because there are 4 strongholds blocking the other side, there is no legal place for me to put it.
You're already in bad shape.
Yeah. So there are always rumors about what Apple's going to do next, and a lot of them are just complete BS unless you know where to look. But the most recent rumor is one that has been a perennial rumor with Apple, that they're going to remove the headphone jack from their blank. And this time...
Yeah, everyone's acting like they never heard this story before. We heard this story like 2 years ago. This is not a new story.
Yeah, didn't they actually put on a mini TRS jack on an iPod at one point? Like, I remember that happening, or something... rumblings happening about that.
I don't remember that ever.
I mean, iPods are ancient technology anyway.
Yeah,
like
iPods have always had the regular headphone hole.
But it's actually an interesting question because the TRS standard, or at least the headphone jack that...
As you know it, is called TRS.
Yeah, well, TRS is the tip, ring, shield.
Sleeve.
I've heard sleeve or shield
It doesn't matter. That's what it stands for because the plug has a tip, then this sort of black separator, then a ring, a metal ring, then another little separator, and then the sleeve or the shield, right? And then, so it's these 3 pieces of metal, and when you shove it in the socket, it connects in 3 places to your device, right?
And it existed because that shape was actually really easy to make and be super reliable.
Right.
It was really easy to connect to a very simple cable.
Right, and the best thing about it is that the tip has like this indent in it. So in the inside of your hole, there's some little pushers that push inwards. And when the tip makes it past the pushers, they lock in behind the tip, keeping that headphone jack sort of in there pretty good, right? It's like, it's not, you got to, apply some force to yank it out.
Yep, and the contacts are real.
It's not just like a loosey, that's why when you put your headphone, into the hole, it goes click, and then it clicks to come out. It's because the shape of the tip and these little pushers on the inside.
And also, the contacts are real big. You get a really good connection there, which is important because for audio purposes, that's analog information. It's not digital. There's no error correction.
Right. It's an analog audio signal. It can, it's already been amplified, right, to what it's going to be. You just need to send it to some speakers and you can hear it, So it's pretty much, because what is a speaker? It's a magnet that just moves back and forth, pushing a thing to make the air move to make sound.
Yeah, it's the same as a microphone, just in the opposite direction.
Exactly. So if your speaker's got, if someone's creating like a, 100 hertz tone, then if you look at that electric signal, what is it? It's an electric wave that's going at 100 hertz.
Yep.
That's
So then
all-
you make a thing move at 100 hertz, and then it makes that sound.
That's
and then you make it.
That's how it works. So when you have the tip, ring, and sleeve, the sleeve is ground because electricity, right?
Yeah.
And the tip and ring are left and right because it's stereo.
Which is lossy because the other way to use that kind of cable is a balance connection where you're only sending one channel. So
Yep.
it's mono, but it's actually so Ethernet cables, at least up through like 100 megabit, they do pretty much the exact same thing as what I'm about to describe. You send the same data over both. So the tip and the ring both have the same data, but you invert one of them.
Right, so when one says 1, the other one says 0 at the same time. And
Well,
that
but
way,
then it's more like because one says 38.97 and the other one says 41.45.
right, because it's analog, yes.
Yeah.
But then at the other end, because they're the exact opposite of each other, right? You can pretty much 100% detect any errors or mistakes.
Yep, because say you add 20 to one spot because there was like a EMP went off somewhere, like nukes are happening, an EMP went by, and a plus 20 got added to this one like microsecond in your signal. At the other end, you see there's a plus 20 on top of a signal on one end, and there's also a plus 20 on the other end. So basically,
Something that started off as -2, +2 is now negative. It's 18 and 22.
So
and
if
you're like,
you-
aha, that must have been a 2.
yeah, because if you take the two signals and overlay them on each other, they turn into 0 plus all the noise. So basically, you get a track now that is just the noise, and you can remove it. And that is why balanced audio cables are the best thing in the world. But those don't
The devices
exist.
on either end have to actually do that,
Uh,
and you would need like tip, ring, sleeve. you
yeah.
know?
That's why XLR cables, it's the same thing. It's just 3 pins instead of a tip and a ring. Doing the exact same thing. But balanced audio is not used by any of you unless you
No.
have a mixer and some audio. So
And there's
you've
no
got-
reason to, because really, how much interference are you dealing with and walking around? None. Right? You can't hear any difference using your
Yeah,
regular
plus
old
you've got a
headphones.
short cable and some shitty headphones, so it doesn't really matter that much.
Doesn't matter.
And if you have fancy headphones, they
Don't
should shield
start believing some audiophile nonsense that you got to use balanced cables for your everyday audio listening.
Yeah,
right?
plus
you only need it for your audio producing.
most of the time your devices don't support that anyway. Like you can't.
Yeah.
So
Even audiophile devices often don't support.
So TRS is important though because there's some debate about this, and I'm not going to weigh in on whether or not this statement is correct, but a lot of people have posited that the TRS audio standard, so that jack and that socket and that format of sending audio, analog audio, might be the longest lived technical specification in consumer device history.
Even
Maybe
even older than like the phone jack?
it is basically a phone jack before our modern RJ11 phone jack existed.
Really? It's older than RJ11?
Yeah.
What?
Read the Wikipedia article on this is not called TRS. TRS is a use of it. It's called phone jack.
Oh, okay. That's news to me. So something else you may have noticed is that like newer headphones and newer phones and things in general have tip ring sleeves, extra ring on there.
There's some like tip ring. Like there's a lot of.
I've only seen 2 ring. I've never seen anything more than 2 ring.
I'm pretty sure I've seen TRRRS.
I've only seen TRS.
I'm gonna look that up. I
which
see
use.
TRS here.
So TRS is basically an extra ring. And what do you do with that extra ring? They're not doing balanced audio because that's nonsense, right?
Oh my God, there it is. There's TRRRS.
Okay. What they're doing with the second additional ring is, first of all, it's fully backwards compatible with the one ring.
And in the darkness, find that.
Right. It's like if you take a tip ring sleeve headphone and put it in an old iPod that only supports tip ring sleeve, it's going to play just fine because it's going to line up with either ring and it doesn't give a shit. Right?
And it's elegant because the way it works in the modern era, I mean, think if you've got a mono device, just because you have like one speaker or something, you can plug a mono cable into there and it'll just work.
It's going to be touching both halves of the stereo part and combining them, you know?
Well, it depends. It's a little more nuanced
Or maybe
than that.
you'll only hear left or maybe you'll only hear right.
I do not want to get into what happens there because actually with old devices, you could kill yourself. But basically, it just works in the modern era.
That's good.
That's what you need to know.
Anyway, so the extra ring there, that's how on your little fancy iPhone headphones like I have, you've got a little microphone on there and you can push buttons to like make the track go forward or play pause or make volume up and down. That's what the extra ring is doing. The extra ring is going the opposite direction. In your iPhones or your regular phones or Android phones, that extra ring is not, they're not sending anything out on that ring unless, you start, if you start talking to someone on the phone, they'll just send that to the tip in the first ring because you're listening to it on your ears. They don't need to use it, right? The third ring is going the opposite way. It's a microphone. And when you push like the volume up button, it's actually creating little sounds and sending those sounds to the phone like you said something. Only you can't talk like a modem going to make it volume go up, right? And then the phone hears that and goes, aha, I guess I'll make the volume go up. Someone said to turn the volume up on the microphone hole on the second ring.
So think about what this means. I can take the newest iPhone. I can take the first Walkman. I can plug any pair of analog
the newest
headphones
that were the newest Beats and plug them into the oldest Sony Walkman, and I could take the headphones that came with that oldest Sony Walkman and plug them into the newest iPhone, and they'll all work.
That's a big deal because headphones might be like very well constructed, like if you get good headphones, but they're dumb devices. They're just a physical thing that responds to electricity. They're driven by the DAC in the device. The device was smart, the headphones were dumb.
Right. See, in the olden days, you didn't even need a DAC because, like, you have a cassette player, a Walkman. The audio was already analog.
Yeah.
You're just reading the analog audio from the tape and playing it with the amplifier. That's all a Walkman does. It doesn't do anything else. It's just a tape reader. But nowadays, you got an MP3 player. You're converting those digital, sounds into an analog sound, and then sending that analog sound through an amplifier and out the headphone hole.
But because we have that line of differentiation where the standard, this TRS is used, these 1/4-inch or 1/8-inch jacks, I think they're officially defined in millimeter terms now.
Whatever.
Or you can get the 2.5 millimeter that some like bullshit phones used to use.
My TI-86 had on the bottom.
Yeah.
The tiny one.
I mean, well, because they use that for data.
I think the Xbox 360 headset uses a tiny one also.
Yeah, I've got adapters for the tiny one for my rig.
Yeah. Anyway.
But because that's standard, it was almost like an abstraction layer in code. Like, because we've got that there, it's like an interface. Well, it is an interface. It literally is an interface. So it doesn't matter what's on the other side of it because the same thing comes out. And every device that plays audio pretty much in the world will work with this. Headphones work everywhere. But the problem with it, as far as Apple has been concerned, and they have been concerned about this, they can't make their phone thinner.
No, and it's too big.
And in fact, Apple has been so obsessed with
this.
They
made it thinner. They even pushed the camera out the back a little bit to make the phone thinner.
I found all these articles about patents and old work Apple has been doing for a long time to try to hack around to get a smaller version of these TRS 1/8-inch connectors.
Make the phone thinner and make you use a stupid adapter.
Yep, they designed one that's the same thing, except one side of it is cut flat, so it's like cut in two along the length. Just to make it thinner, but otherwise work the same way, and have one pusher on the top only. Like, that's how obsessed they were with this. And the rumor is that Apple is finally going to, with the iPhone 7, just force you to use Thunderbolt, and that's where the audio comes out.
Right, so here's the issue here. People were, if you remember the older iPhones before they invented lightning cables, they're lightning. Thunderbolt is different.
Yeah.
Before they invented the lightning cable, they had the dock connector, which is like this big wide rectangle kind of thing that was only one, and it had 1 million pins on it. The dock connector was actually really fancy in that there was a lot of things on those pins, including analog audio output. So, like, they also sent the analog audio out a few of those pins, and that's why you could easily take an old iPod and put it on a dock, and a dock with speakers, and it could just play music because it would just, there was like extra headphone hole that was a weird shape on the bottom of it in addition to the one on the top.
That's why that dock was cheap. The dock was stupid.
Right. As far as I'm aware, the lightning connector, I could be wrong, does not have analog audio output on it. I'm pretty sure it's a digital-only connector, like a serial USB kind of connector. We could look that up. Maybe I'm wrong.
I think you're right from what I've been reading.
Which means now, if you have lightning headphones, what used to happen was the phone would convert the digital sound into the analog signal. The amplifier would be in your phone. Now, you're going to have to buy an adapter that isn't just some dumb shape-changing metal connecting thing. There's
going to be a circuit in there.
There's going to be a digital to analog, processing device
an analogy.
in either the adapter or if your headphones have a lightning cable in your headphones, and now suddenly this is a whole different. Headphones are no longer just a speaker with a wire coming out of it, like every speaker has been for the history of speakers.
Now, this is not a new problem. This has happened with serial ports
There
versus
now has
USB.
to be a digital analog converter and possibly an amplifier in your headphones.
Like a lot of devices, if you need to just connect something to a computer to send and receive data, way easier and cheaper
And does
to
this
just
mean
use serial.
Does this mean your headphones need power too?
Yeah, well,
Or
they'll
are they
get
going
it.
to get power from the lightning? Because you can get power from the lightning connector, because that's how the pencil charges. The pencil
Yeah.
charges off the lightning connector, so you can definitely get power from it.
So
But-
in the old days, with devices, you'd use serial ports because you can just send and receive data and trivially implement that like in hardware.
Right, but the device that's using the serial port needed power from somewhere because serial ports didn't give power,
Yeah.
which is why the USB, they added power to USB.
But for a small device, if you want to use USB as your serial bus, you've got to implement the fucking USB stack with a chip on your device.
Yep.
Serial, you could just stick a bunch of NAND gates in there if you really wanted to and go to town.
You just needed a AA battery.
Yeah. But in terms of like you could implement the signaling stuff without having to implement a semi-software stack of USB
Right.
and get a UUID and all that nonsense. Or GUID, whatever.
Whatever.
So it would be interesting if Apple did this because it would.
They're going to charge your arm and a leg for an adapter, which is their favorite thing to do.
Well, it'll also start locking you in because as soon as you buy Lightning headphones, you can't go back to Android now.
Well, you buy your Lightning headphones, then you buy a $50 adapter to turn Lightning into tip ring sleeve to use it with something else.
Yeah.
And then if you don't buy Lightning headphones, you're going to have to buy a $50 adapter to use regular headphones with iPhone 7.
But it might be moot because I suspect most people are going toward Bluetooth if they have iPhones anyway.
Yeah, I don't know why Apple doesn't just get rid of the connector entirely and say Bluetooth headphones, everyone, and make some fucking good ones because no one makes any good ones.
Yeah.
And someone's going to tell me that someone does make good ones, and you're wrong because I've tried a lot of them, and they all have problems.
I actually stopped using the old Animotics because they were just too fragile. And now I just have some Shure isolation earbuds with a TRS connector on the end. And they work great.
Mm.
But it's interesting because this dance has happened a few times. And with the serial port thing, serial ports are still around and a lot of things still use them because USB is inadequate even today.
Yep.
A lot of switches, a lot of routers, a lot of embedded devices, a lot of research devices. That's why even now you can buy a PCI Express card that just has 4 serial ports sticking out of the back.
A fun thing to do, just install Linux on a computer, just any kind of Linux, even Ubuntu
Oh,
or old, right?
How many kids even know this?
And if by default, it's going to run a terminal, right, device on the serial port, usually the first one. If you take like a VT100 or something, some serial device.
Or even just get an old Windows computer or something and just connect to it with a
and
null
use
modem.
Minicom.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Or, even PuTTY you can probably do it, right? And just connect a cable to that serial port to a terminal, either a virtual or hardware terminal, and boop, you'll turn it on and there's a login. It'll be like, login, username.
Yeah.
Like, there it is. You just log in on the serial port. Because back in the day, that's how computers worked. You'd go to a school, there'd be one computer running Unix, and there'd be a whole bunch of terminals. And all those terminals had a serial cable connected to the computer.
Yeah, they were terminals. They were not computers. There was not much going on. They could not do stuff on their own.
And you can do the same thing. You can take your computer and get a whole bunch of terminals plugged into it if you have enough serial connectors. You can even use USB to do this if you set it up. And everyone can use the same computer and all log in as their own users. One person can when you SSH in, what do you think it does? It creates a terminal on a device and sends it over the network. That's all it's doing.
So, I don't know if this rumor is true or not. I give it pretty much 50-50 odds.
I mean, the last time the rumor came about, I said, yeah, that's believable.
Yeah.
And now it's coming about again even stronger, so it's still believable. But what tends to happen with the Apple rumors is most of them seem to be true. There aren't usually a lot of bullshit ones.
Unless you read like really dumb websites.
Right, and ones that are seemingly wrong, like Apple didn't make a television. They just updated the Apple TV and stuff. They're usually right eventually.
There's an Aes Sedai truth in there.
Like Apple Watch was a rumor for many years, and then what happened eventually? Apple Watch. There
but
it
at
is.
the same time, by that logic, there are rumors about pretty much every stupid thing that doesn't happen. So,
Wait, like which ones?
So people were talking about smartwatches 20 years ago.
Sure.
Like, I mean, from the first iPhone, there was probably some crackpot who was like, there's going to be an Apple Watch.
You know, I mean, Apple made a camera.
Yeah.
Way back, there was a digital camera, and it wasn't in any phone whatsoever. It was a standalone camera. Apple made printers. Apple made all kinds of stuff people don't remember.
But basically, if you're a nerd or a geek like us, if you don't know how headphone cables work, I'd actually suggest read this Wikipedia article.
Oh, also, do you remember that, you know, there are big ones, too? The same tip ring sleeve, but...
The 1/4 inch?
But big. Yeah. That's a thing.
In fact, not only is that a thing, but that's still used.
It's still used. Why not?
If you buy a good pair of headphones, that's all it comes with usually.
Well, usually it'll come with the adapter also.
Yeah, but if you have a good pair of headphones, like for real headphones, you're probably plugging them into a for real device, like an actual mixing console or something.
Yeah, because there's no other reason to wear giant headphones.
Yeah. I always you see those people who have like super giant, amazing, like $400 studio monitor headphones.
Plugged into their iPhone.
Yeah, with a little adapter and this tiny little cable sticking out of the bottom of the iPhone, listening to an MP3 or whatever.
It's like I'm sure that's so portable, dude. That must be so great to just carry around with you all day.
Your headphones are like 6 times bigger than your phone.
Might as well get the giant iPhone if you got the giant headphone.
But seriously, like, if you're a kid who's never run into this stuff, like, you can use serial ports and headphone jacks and TRS stuff to do a lot of stuff without writing any software. Like, there's cool stuff down at the bottom of computing that no one knows about anymore except old people. This has been Geek Nights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for the opening music, Kat Lee for web design, and Brando K for the logos.
Be sure to visit our website at frontrowcrew.com for show notes, discussion, news, and more.
Remember, Geek Nights is not 1, but 4 different shows. Sci-Tech Mondays, Gaming Tuesdays, Anime Comic Wednesdays, and Indiscriminate Thursdays.
Geek Nights is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution 3.0 license. Geek Nights is recorded live with no studio and no audience. But unlike those other late shows, it's actually recorded at night.
The patrons tonight for this episode, in order of the amount of money you're giving us, are Nicholas Brandau, Rebecca Dunn, James David White, Christian Kuntz, Jess, Mechanical Mind, Renee from New Zealand, Robert Lee, Ryan Perrin, Drew Oppenlander, Rare Lavelle, Brian Cedrone, Rochelle Montanona, Finn Eric Solverod, Rim Eats Poop, Edgar Mendez, William Eisenrose, Aaron Saris, Chris Midkiff, Chris Knox, Flame Darkfire, Samuel Cordry, Daniel Redman, Chris Haddad, Doug Snyder, Sean Klein, Chris Reimer, and Thomas Hahn. So, yeah, we had some trouble trying to figure out what to do the show on today. Scott did not want to talk about anything, and he doesn't care about tech news. He refused to even pick newses. So I just picked 4 of the 20 things I thought were worth talking about and did the news. And then I convinced him to do the show on TRS and headphone jacks. Somehow he agreed to it, but he was like, "It's your idea. This is stupid. We had 2 minutes to talk about." And yeah, I analyzed the wave. I dumped it out. We talked about 50% of the time each. In fact, Scott talked a little bit more than me in this episode. So yeah, Scott says we can't do shows on things because there's nothing to say. And if I trick him into doing it, then we do a show that would push an hour unless I actually cut him off. So I don't know what we'll do. We're thinking about changing up the format. Maybe for Mondays, we might start doing 4 to 5 newses and then a shorter main bit. Or maybe we'll just do 4 newses and then whatever our longest news was going to be, we'll talk about whatever generic topic can come out of that. If it means shorter shows, fine. But I actually think it'll be fine because Scott did fine, and the show ended up, in my opinion, reasonably good. If any of you have complaints, I tried to cut Scott off about the minor details of exactly how TRS works in audio between balanced and unbalanced and which is what. no one actually needs to know that unless you're writing the spec. Modern equipment's not going to hurt you, but generally don't plug headphones into microphone jacks. You might ruin the headphones because of the bias voltage or phantom power or whatever nonsense might be hidden in there. Anyway, I'm starting pre-production still on GeekNights Presents Utena. I'll post some updates about that in the Patreon soon. Scott still, as far as I can tell, does not listen to this nonsense. And I now leave you your moment of literally the opposite of Zen.
Money, motherfucker. Money on my motherfucking mind. Got 5 haircuts at the same time. White gold pants, jet ski, marijuana. Foie gras, bust the Albert Einstein. Get money. Money at my motherfucking man.